Uh, Thank you, Steve. Really appreciate you. And I appreciate each and every one of you being here, working to serve the people that are food insecure. It's been on my wife's heart and my heart for many years, and Iowa is an incredible place for us to grow up and live and serve our fellow people here in Iowa, but also people all around the world. So just thank you for honoring me today. I want to go through a very brief list of thanking a few people because an award like this doesn't happen because of what I've done. I started a few things and then a whole bunch of people joined in and made it happen. First of all, I'd like to thank God. God called me into this work, and that was about 25 years ago. And I had lived my whole life as a church-going person, but didn't really have a relationship with Christ until I was almost 50. My wife was a great part of helping me finally find the right path. So I'm thankful that I'm in God's army, and God has called me to South Africa to serve, and basically to serve the impoverished children, the widows. It's just been an incredible blessing to be part of it. So I want to thank my wife. I've drug her all over the world. We've lived in many, many places. I always tell her that home is where we sleep. We have over 1 million miles with Delta, and that's not the only airline we fly. The last several years, though, it's been very deep investment in Africa, in Southern Africa. And it's just been such a joy to help people that can never help us back. Really want to appreciate our son. He's in the air right now on his way back here. He's worked full-time in Africa for the last 10 years and off and on for the last 20 years. And I'm getting old, like a lot of people here in this room, and our president. It's time for me to get ready to pass the baton. And I'm so proud of our son that he's stepping up and doing what my wife and I have been doing for years. And he's doing a better job than we ever tried to do. So I want to thank him and his wife, Alex, for all that they do. They live and work full-time in the country of South Africa. But he'll be here for the next 11 days or so, I guess 12 days, visiting and helping us with a few things here. So special thank to him and our family. We got lots of family that has supported us through this for many, many years. I wanted to tell a little story about Robert Ray, since this award is honoring Robert Ray. I knew him. I didn't know him well at first, but after he retired as governor, he went to Blue Cross Blue Shield. And I had it on my heart back in those days to start medical clinics in the States, because we'd done a lot of medical work all over the world, and it's easy. And so many people said, oh, you can't do pro bono free medical work in the States. You'll get sued, all kinds of reasons we couldn't do it. But God called me to start a medical clinic in our little tiny Methodist church in Polk City. And amazing, it went very well. And then we started one at Maple Street Baptist Church with Pastor Ratliff. And I think we started one more. And then Robert Ray called me up and he said, Doc, I hear you're doing free medical clinics in churches and we want to help you. And he made available a grant for $40,000, which back in those days funded the starting of 10 additional free clinics throughout Iowa. That organization is still running today. It's called Free Clinics of Iowa, and it's got 30 clinics all around this state serving the medical needs of people. So some people come to me and say, well, we don't want to support you doing work overseas. We want help in our backyard. I've paid my duty in our backyard, and it's important that we all do that. So thank you. I'm especially thankful for a gentleman who couldn't be here today. There's an empty seat down the way for him. Councilman Mike Simonson, he just got elected to city council. He's an architect in Des Moines, an amazing guy. And it was about 20 years, a long time ago, he did a mission trip with us. And back in those days, we were doing optical mission trips and testing children's eyes and giving them glasses. And he enjoyed that, but he got to talking to the teachers, and he noticed that the schools we're visiting, the kids were just lethargic and not paying attention. He said, you know, what's going on? And the teacher said, well, they're hungry. They didn't have breakfast. They don't get enough to eat, and they can't pay attention. It broke Mike's heart. And he came back to Iowa in his office here, and he called me in and said, Doc, I'm going to help you feed those kids. Feeding program wasn't my vision, wasn't my idea. It was Mike Simonson. Very humble, quiet guy. He wrote out a check that day for $120,000, and he said, you can't have it until you match it. So we ended up with $250,000. We fed 300 kids for 2 years. And all of you know, once you start feeding kids, there's no stopping. And you need to know that before you start. That program has now grown to 50,000 kids. We literally feed 50,000 kids. Most of them get a meal 5 days a week. They all get at least a meal 3 days a week. We work with Convoy of Hope, who has very strict reporting requirements that we feed the children enough calories and we feed them often enough. They would rather do quality feeding program for smaller number of children. But their goal, like Hy-Vee's, is to feed 1 million children. Our goal at Blessman is to feed 100,000. We're at 50,000 now, and we're getting incredible help from many, many partners. And I see in the next 3 to 5 years, we will be at 100,000 kids. And it's important. It really seems inefficient when we transport rice from Iowa to Africa to feed African kids. And I often wonder where that Iowa rice comes from, and they tell me it's down south somewhere. But Meals from the Heartland contributes 23 shipping containers of food to us. That's 6.5 million meals every year. And one container is a whole bunch of food. If you don't believe me, come and help us unload one. We hire about 7 strong African young men with pizza, and they unload it in about 7 or 8 hours. A couple of sites have forklifts, but mostly it's manual labor. So big thank you to Meals from the Heartland and all of you who help Meals from the Heartland. It's amazing how we've heard all day, many hands make quick work of what's going on. So really appreciate Meals from the Heartland. And that brings up Hy-Vee. Hy-Vee has supported us incredibly well with wells and sanitation, but behind the scenes, they've also supported us with food. They've donated literally millions of dollars to Meals from the Heartland. All of you get together, package that food, and it gets shipped to us in Africa. So they've been an incredible community partner for many, many years. I think Gary Goodall's here in the audience somewhere. I went in and talked to him years ago. I was wanting to raise money to drill wells, and he said, well, Doc, I've given money to 2 or 3 other places. I still haven't seen my first cup of water. And I said, well, Gary, give us a chance. And 3 months later, I sent him a video of Dustin drinking a glass of water. And ever since then, Hy-Vee's been an incredible partner. So when you shop Hy-Vee, tell them thank you for supporting the work that we do in Africa. Vermeer's been another one of our Iowa companies. All of you in this room know the importance of not just handing out food. You really have to get a culture, and especially a large culture like Africa, to be able to feed themselves. You know, we can feed them for a while, but at some point it may stop, and we better be behind the scenes teaching them agriculture, making agriculture available to them. And Vermeer just recently donated a brand new, it was a round hay baler. Can you imagine? I think they had something to do with inventing that many years ago. But the goal is to make our small farm productive and teaching we're mainly teaching African women. Women are more effective farmers than men in our particular area. And we're teaching African women how to feed their families, and we go into schools and we do gardens and teach us. We learned that teaching students, we have to catch them early. By high school, they're not interested in agriculture. So we really start teaching them agriculture much, much younger. Highline, another great Iowa company. Tom Dixon called me about 2 years ago and he said, "Doc, I want to help you feed those kids with eggs." I thought, well, that's great. Let's do it. And we had several meetings, and over those meetings, we decided we're going to do research on the value of adding egg protein to what we were already feeding. And so we did some scientific studies, and we actually found out marked improvement by adding eggs to undernourished, malnourished children. We have a school of 70 kids very close to the farm where we live, and a lot of them stunted and undernourished. We didn't change any diet. They were on the regular school diet, which in Africa is not quite like what we just had. And that was all they got. And so we added 2 boiled eggs a day, and we even tried to get them into them on weekends, and remarkable change in physical growth. The biggest change they saw was attendance. The parents started making sure the kids come to school. You can't teach a child if they're not there. And the energy level was dramatically different, 2 eggs a day. Very cost-effective thing. So Highline is now providing us with all the layers we need to feed several children an egg a day. And we're continuing a research study. Our goal is to prove scientifically the value of this, so we'll get funding to feed 100,000 kids an egg a day. So that's my big, big goal, and I see it happening not too far down the future. It's hard to thank people and be sure I thank everyone. A lot of my staff is sitting right over here. All in all, we have about 50 staff. Most of them are in Africa. We're a very small organization in Iowa. But it's such a blessing to be from Iowa, grow up in Iowa, and have all of the support. The churches have just jumped on board and helped us. They're sending many, many people to Africa to serve with us. And once somebody comes to Africa, they fall in love with us. And that reminds me, I want to invite everyone here today to get a hold of us, find out how you can come to Africa and serve a very short time with us, or maybe even spend a year or two. People that come longer are more benefit to us, but we love to have everybody come. And I promise you it changes lives. You heard from Governor Reynolds what it did for her. Ambassador Branstad, he was over there with us. It's been a long time, 20 years ago probably. He was a young man like me. And he helped us get partnerships with medical schools here in Iowa and in Africa and hospitals and the government. And that is still running. We still have medical students come and doing research and getting amazing clinical experience. So lots and lots of people here and groups here in Iowa have got us where we are today. Last of all, I want to thank those kids. I wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for those thousands of kids that we get to help. And I lay my head on the pillow, and I know we fed 50,000 kids today. I wake up in the morning, and I realize we get to do it again. And we have Zoom calls. We learned something in COVID. We do Zoom calls with each of our 12 hubs every 2 weeks. And feeding thousands and thousands of kids is like making sausage. It's messy. But it gets done, and I'm so proud of my staff all over the world. But thank you for honoring me today. It's just amazing, and I promise you I'm going to use this honor to raise more money to feed more kids. So thank you.